have a very exciting presenter coming up next. And she's embodied everything that she's going to talk about today in terms of resilience, navigating in a world where speed, pressure, digital demands, and constant changes have become the new norm. The new norm means that when Sarah was sitting down here thinking to herself, I got another hour and a half to spare before I present, we came up to her and said to her, no, actually, you got to present now. So you are actually walking the talk of what you're going to talk about today. So our next keynote will reframe how we think about success, performance, and resilience, not as an endurance test, but as an intelligent balance between personal energy, emotional regulation, mental clarity, workplace culture, and sustainable ambition. This session will be delivered by a global expert who continues to guide leaders and professionals in building healthier workplace practices grounded in science, coaching, and mindful performance. Ladies and gentlemen, can we get a round of applause in welcoming the Chief Executive Officer, Christensen Consultancy, Miss Sarah Christensen. All right.
Thank you, Hugh.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure.
You do realize the most important thing I was worried about when you moved this session forward was, did I have enough time to go to the toilets to reapply my lipstick? So
that's the same for me with lip balm.
Fantastic. Actually, if you could leave that over there, it'd be fantastic. All right, good afternoon, everyone. How are we? Yeah, are we enjoying ourselves? Fantastic. Lots of exciting insights and speakers so far. And I am absolutely delighted to be back on stage again this year talking about something I am deeply passionate about. How can we build inclusive, engaged, and well cultures where we are very much looking at moving away from this whole burnout to make sure we're moving towards balance to create resilient organizations going forward. So I want to start off by sharing some information and sort of some insights about my weekly stress and anxiety. I'm a boy mum. I am the mother of an 8-year-old, very sporty, very active son who plays just about every sport under the sun. And 90% of my working week is spent ferrying said child from one sporting activity to another. And Saturday was no different. Saturday just passed. Saturday started off first thing at a football match. Anyone here have children who plays football sport competitively? Yes? So you know what it's like. It's nerve-wracking to watch them. And as the mum of the goalie, it's even worse. And then when you throw a penalty into the mix, which happened at the game on Saturday, my nerves by the end of the session were just like, oh my goodness. But I didn't have time to stop there and recover because I had 50 minutes to jet across the city to go to the next game, which was a basketball match, where again, I spent the next hour sitting on the edge of my seat while my child threw himself up and down the court and trying to remain calm when he was taking free throw shots. So by the end of Saturday afternoon, when I got on the plane to come to Kuwait, I was utterly exhausted. So I've kind of come here to Kuwait, and I've missed Sunday's basketball game, and I've missed Monday's swim gala, so my nerves have had a little rest. So I feel this has been a bit of a holiday retreat for me, being here, so thank you for that. Okay, so let's start talking about this concept of stress. What is stress? Oh, let me start off by the agenda. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a couple of these key topics. We're going to talk about stress, we're going to talk about burnout, we are going to talk about why we need to be investing in well-being in our workplaces, and then I'm going to give you some hints and tips and strategies that you as individuals can put into place for yourself to become more resilient within the workplace, and also from a leadership and an organizational perspective, what do we need to do to build those resilient organizations going forward? Okay, so let's start off talking about this concept of stress. Stress is the body's natural response to a perceived challenge or demand. Okay, what type of stress do we face in the workplace? Shout out any ideas. What sort of stress do we face in the workplace? Too many buyers, too many customers? Emotional stresses? Bad managers? Yes, that's very stressful, yes. Work-life balance? Yes. Failures? Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, pardon? Oh, motherhood guilt. Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. And think about that. Just listen to that. What does that tell us? So many of us experience stress in the workplace. But is all of that stress bad? Is stress bad? No, not all stress is bad. Some stress can actually be really good for us. It gives us an opportunity to kind of like push through and get what we need to do and to compete when it comes to promotions and kind of, fight to sort of make sure you're driving forward and achieving the goals you need to do. So actually, stress in itself can actually be very helpful. But when it moves from that and becomes the challenges, when it comes from that kind of short-term kind of push to that longer-term continual anxiety, when that fight and flight mode is consistently on the go, that's when stress becomes a problem and a challenge. And that's when we run the risk to move into something like burnout. Now, let's start off by taking you through a little concept that we use a lot in psychology. This is the biopsychosocial model of change and behavior. And the idea behind this is that what we think impacts how we feel, both emotionally and physically, that in turn then will impact what we do and how we behave. So let's think about it from a stress perspective. When we're in the height of that stress, let's take that stress, negative workplace stress, the bad managers, the customers, the constant workload. What are some of the things that are going through our head? Just shout out, what are some of the things we're thinking at that time? I might get fired. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not good enough. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of things that's going to think, I'm going to fail, I'm not good enough. How does that make us feel inside? What sort of emotions are we connecting with in that moment? Fear. Instruction. Anything else? Autopilot, we're kind of operating on autopilot, absolutely. So we've got all these kind of things like the anxiety, the fear, the panic that's constantly going round. What are we noticing in our bodies? We're kind of tense. Anyone kind of start gritting their teeth? You're like, yes, I'm smiling through this meeting even though I don't feel like it. We're seeing that sensation in our bodies, and sometimes when that starts prolonging, we're noticing things like it might disrupt our sleep patterns or even how we're eating and our appetite. What in turn then might we see from a behavioural perspective when we're stressed at work? Aggressiveness, yes. Attacking other people, absolutely. Maybe creating that conflict in our relationships. Very defensive behavior, absolutely. So we're now seeing some of that stuff where we're disrupting our relationships with each other. Where maybe when we are sitting down to focus on our work, we're not able to concentrate the same way that we could. We're having memory challenges. In the end, we might start to look and avoid the situation. And what we can see is that when we're in this cycle of stress, we notice that it keeps going round and round. So while it starts off like, I'm not sure I can do this, I feel a bit nervous, we're maybe a little bit muscle tension, we're maybe freezing up, but then it goes round going, oh my goodness, I'm useless because I can't do it. And it goes round and round and round again. And the danger comes then when that cycle of stress consistently goes round and round and making it very difficult for us to break free. And that's when we're running the risk of hitting burnout. So let's take a look at what burnout is. Burnout is actually, it's not a mental health condition per se. It's actually defined by the World Health Organization as an occupational phenomenon. So it's a work-related condition in itself. And in general, what it's characterized by are three key things. We're exhausted, we're becoming quite cynical, and we're noticing a negative attitude to our work and to our colleagues. And number three, then, we're seeing a reduction in our effectiveness within the workplace. So essentially, if we're absolutely exhausted, we really hate going to work, and we're not really effective when we are in work, the chances are we're hitting burnout. So what might that look like then? That might look like, we're starting to see things like, well, what's the point? I just don't care anymore. In our kind of mind, we're becoming very detached and numb, and maybe a little bit helpless, and like, well, I'm just not going to do it. Well, we're seeing a lot of that stress in our bodies, that chronic stress that's taking a toll, and particularly our immune system might take an impact because we're constantly got that cortisol through our system. We're becoming more susceptible to illness. And consequently, then, we're again withdrawing from ourselves, withdrawing from our colleagues. We're just not working effectively and efficiently as possible. So while we see that stress and burnout have a lot of similarities in what they do and what that looks like, there are differences to that. Too much stress does lead to burnout, but burnout and stress are slightly different. Stress we can think about as too much pressure, too much demand. But when people are experiencing stress, they go, if I can just get control of this, everything will be okay. And we sometimes hear that if I just work harder and I just get that report done and I just make that deadline, it will all be okay. In contrast to that, then, we're hitting to burnout, and burnout is about not enough. It's about experiencing this devoid of motivation. It's about we just don't really care anymore. We're empty. And what people who are experiencing burnout are, they just can't see that way forward. And what's interesting is that we can often be quite conscious of when we're in stress mode, but for those who hit burnout may not actually be aware that they're experiencing burnout. So I want to do a little temperature check with you just now yourselves. I want you to just go into yourself based on what I've just said. Where are you now? Where would you place yourself on this continuum? Do you feel you're more along the energized and thriving level? Are you kind of maybe hitting towards stretch but coping? Are you running low, or are you really at the exhausted and detached end? So just take a moment now. Internalize in, where are you on that scale? Okay, who would put themselves at the energized and thriving? Hands up, who feels that they're energized and thriving at the moment? Not as many people as we would like to. Okay, well, for those of you with your hands up, congratulations. According to Gallup, 33% of the global population are in the thriving and energized category. Now, when we talk about thriving, it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have any stress, we don't have any challenge. It just means that right now we have enough resources, recovery, setting boundaries to help us be able to push through and effectively and healthily deal with the stress. For those of you who are maybe more in the amber and red category, this is not about judgment. This is about you being aware of where you are on that scale and being able to seek the support that you need to move you back towards the green end of the scale. And I will say that I'm around here for the next 2 days, so if anyone does feel they're hitting towards that end, please do seek me out. I am here to sit down and speak with you if you do need to. Now, when it comes to creating resilient organizations, what we need and what we want is to make sure that our people are hitting up this end of the target. And that's where we want to put into place those things that will help build up that resilient organization. But that comes with a challenge. All right, hands up here who have leaders who think that this well-being piece is all about running, an annual yoga class, and it's all just a bit of fluffy HR stuff. Hands up if anyone has leaders who thinks that that's what well-being's all about. Yeah, the few people? Absolutely. Okay, so going to give you something to take back to them. What do you think is the cost, the indirect costs all clubbed together of disengaged and struggling employees in the workplace? Shout out. What do you think the cost is to business? Give me a figure and number. How many US dollars do you think it is? Millions? Billions? 33 billion we have here? Any other for that? 100 billion US dollars. This is actually taken from a Gallup survey. And this is really clubbing together the indirect costs. So this is not just the kind of lost productivity. It's not about the sick days, the absenteeism rates. It's about the insurance costs. All these things clubbing together, the attrition rates. There's both the direct and the indirect costs all clubbed together and costing businesses significant amount of money every year in lost productivity because of disengaged and struggling employees. Take this number back to your leaders. They have got to understand that there is a significant business imperative behind looking at well-being, not as a fluffy HR concept, but as a real business objective. Okay, so let's take a look at that then. So how do we move forward? What do we need to do to move forward? Well, what we need is to move from burnout. But in order to move from burnout to balance, we need to understand what burnout is. And today, hopefully, I've given you a little taste into understanding what is the concept of burnout, what does that look like, what does that feel like, so you understand when it shows up that you need to take action. We then need to find balance. So balance is about being able to set boundaries and making sure that we have healthy people and ecosystems within our organization to be able to set boundaries, set recovery, and create healthy, sustainable working practices. And only then, when we have that, are we going to move to resilient organizations who are able to sustain their performance over the longer term. Resilient organizations are the ones that can deal with change. They manage their energy, not just their time. They're providing the support and they're learning through all the challenges that they have. So how do we go about doing that? So let's take a look, first of all, from an individual level. Who knows who this lady is? Spot on. Simone Biles, absolutely total girl crush on her. As an aside, for the last 4 months, I have just taken up adult gymnastics because I've always wanted to learn how to do a backflip. So challenge for next year is if I get invited back, maybe I'll show you how progress has started on the stage then. I'll not do it now. I'm still a bit rusty. Okay, so thinking about Simone Biles as a phenomenal athlete that she is. She has got so many 11 Olympic medals and 30-odd world champions. I mean, really, she's pretty phenomenal. So think about her as an actual athlete. Do you think she spends all day, every day, going hard at the gym, backflipping across those floors, tumbling around? Is that what she does for her regime? Nope. Absolutely not. She has a very strict regime, which involves the intense tumbling and jumping and sprinting and whatever else she does, but it's also balanced with recovery. It's also looking at her mental game. It's looking at her hydration and her nutrition, all of that together. And that's what makes her and builds up that peak performance. Now, I want us to think about ourselves not as an elite athlete, but as a corporate athlete. And if we want to sustain our performance, to get to peak performance on that level, we don't need to do that every 4 years. Think about it. We need to do it for about 40 years because the average career span is about 40 years. So we need to be able to put in a regime for ourselves to allow us to do peak performance for those 40 years. So we can't go hard all day, every day. It is not going to sustain us. So what can we do instead then to be able to do it? Okay. You've got pen and paper in front of you. What I'd love for you to do is I'd love for you to draw what is your productivity graph. Okay, so think about when are you most awake, alert in the day. So if you want to put down the y-axis, if you put down that's your energy levels, and on the x-axis then put time during the day. What does that look like for you? Now I don't have a pen here, but mine tends to look at, I get up in the morning, I'm super energized, my performance is up, I'm really good, start to about probably about 11 o'clock, then I kind of little dip down, go get a cup of tea, then I'm back up again, but get to about 2:30 in the afternoon, straight down. Don't ask me to do much after 2:30. So where are you on your productivity? So think about where your energy is. And when you have an understanding of that, then it's about where do you need to put your time, energy, and effort for that peak performance in the day. So if you know you've got that report to write, if you know you've got that deadline to finish off, put that in that time when you are most awake, most alert, and most energized. Makes absolute sense because your brain is going to give you the best performance at that time. Oh, look, there we go. Thank you, my darling. Thank you. All right. So what does that look like? So as I said, for me, that would kind of like get up in the morning, pretty good, high, a little bit of dip, and then something like that. All right. So if I have to do any big concentrating work, I'm doing that normally from about 9 until about 12. That is my peak time that I'm going to spend focusing on that. So think about where you need to put your energy in the day. Building in recovery time. So hands up. Who works about 40 hours a week? Hands up. Good. Okay. Right. Anyone work 50 hours a week? Anyone work 60 hours a week? Yeah, anyone work 70? Depends. Okay, so look, I work with a lot of the consultancy firms, and what's really interesting is the number of times I have conversations around them and saying, so who works 70 hours a week? And they're just like, yeah, I do, yeah. And they wear it like a badge of honor. And I'm like, absolute fools. You have got about 20 hours in the week when you could be doing something so much better. Because all the research tells you that your ability to perform peaks out at 50 hours a week. Anything more than that, your productivity and your performance actually diminishes. So you're not going to get any additional gains. And actually, what you're much better doing is that when you're hitting that limit, switch off. Because you need to have that time to recover, to come back and deliver that peak performance the next day. Don't be fooled in thinking that if I just stay here for an extra few hours to get this finished, it's not going to give you the performance that you need. So make sure you're building in that recovery time. Nothing above 50 hours. It just doesn't make sense. Prioritizing sleep. This is always an interesting one. Anyone sleep less than 6 hours a night? Oh dear. Okay, all right. So there's a fantastic TED Talk. Anyone watch TED Talks? Yeah, familiar with TED Talks? There's a fantastic TED Talk by a sleep guru called Matt Walker, and it's called Sleep is Your Superpower. I highly recommend everyone watch it. Your brain needs to recover, full stop, end of story. And 7 to 9 is the recommended number of hours to sleep. So hopefully if you can go and try and see if you can, because actually your health does diminish when you are not getting more than if you are getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night. So something to think about. You can't come into work if you're not getting enough sleep. New parents, the only thing I will say to you, this too shall pass. Okay, eating and hydrating well. Well, we don't put red diesel into a sports car, so why do we fill ourselves with a load of bad quality food? Something to think about. And as for hydration, well, we get dumb really quickly when we're dehydrated. 1% dehydration results in 5% in cognitive decline. 5%. So your ability to concentrate, focus, pay attention, distractibility significantly decreases when we're not. I love the fact everyone's grabbing bottles of water right now. Always the way. Absolutely. Good quality water, super important. And finally, it's moving your body. When we move our body, we are helping kind of boost our mood, and also we are boosting our mental clarity. Okay. So look, I haven't told you anything new there, really, have I? We all kind of know we should be doing these things, but I want to kind of pinpoint again that this is super important for you to think about. Just that quick reminder, pick one of those. I always say pick one of those and do it for a week, see how you feel. And then we'll go from there. All right, so if that's for the individual, let's just quickly then move on to it from a organizational perspective. All right. Final kind of run with this. Where do we need to be doing it from a leadership and an organizational perspective? Well-being we need to build resilient structures, not situations. So this means putting well-being as a business priority and business metrics. You need to be measuring employee engagement, but not just that. You need to be absenteeism rates, sick rates, and also look at your insurance policies. That is incredibly insightful when it comes to looking at what's going on there. Bring in flexible policies. Look at where you're allocating your resources to make sure that you're not overloading people, and put it into a strategy. And I'll give you an example of a company that did put it into their strategy after a not so great incident. Pints and Masons, have you heard of them? They're a legal company. So they had an incident a number of years ago when unfortunately it wasn't a particularly great outcome. And one of the things they did as a result of that was put into place something called a mindful business charter. And what that does is that it's something that everyone signs, not just those internally, but also externally. Their clients, their customers also have to sign this. And this is a charter to say that we will not do anything that is going to negatively impact the mental health and well-being of the people we work with. That's really powerful. So that basically is now holding people accountable for going, you do not get to call someone at 3 o'clock in the morning and demand that this contract be finished, that be signed, that be amended. This is something that really makes it very clear from a business strategic perspective that well-being is at the heart of how they do business. Going to look at it then from a leadership perspective. Resilient leaders create resilient teams. Leaders are able to recognize burnout. So hopefully you've got some insights to that. They're providing rest and recovery, and they are making sure that they're a role model for that. So off means off. Leaders. This does not mean taking your laptop on holiday and sitting there doing emails and sending out work and engaging. Off means off. You need to role model that so your people feel safe to do that too. We're talking about growth cultures as well. It's about making sure here that we are normalizing time off. So it's not sitting at the lunch at our computer and having lunch. Not about that. It is also about providing access to resources and tools that we do. So bit of a plug here. On our website, christianconsultancy.com, we have a toolkit for mental health for employees. It's a free resource. If you are interested, please feel free to go and download it. It is a guide to help your employees be able to understand the mental health and well-being and what they can do to sustain that for themselves longer term. And finally, it is also about normalizing those conversations in the workplace to make sure that people feel that it's okay and safe to say, I'm not okay today. So before I go, I want to leave you with one. I know I'm running late. I've got one final little thing that I want you to take back, little tool that I want you to take back to the organization with you. This is called the traffic light system. So how often do we walk into the office and go, hey, how you doing? Yeah, great, no problem. And how often do we just say, yeah, I'm fine, and we're actually not? Okay, here's a little technique for you. Something that's incredibly powerful you could do at the start of a team meeting or something like wherever you want to, or at the start of a day. Where are you? Are you green, are you amber, or are you red? If you are green, I'm good to go. I'm thriving, I'm energizing, things are great, we're all ready to go. Yes, brilliant. Maybe you're kind of amber today, so kind of running a little bit low, so maybe feeling a little bit stretched and maybe a little bit frustrated, but I'm kind of getting there. Or maybe you're red. Maybe you're kind of at that where I'm kind of running on empty, I'm pretty mentally and physically drained. This is such a powerful yet simple way to really help you to understand your people and where they're at. And it's also about normalizing. It's okay if you're not green every day. But when people are amber, it's about turning around and going, do you know what do you need right now? Are you okay? Can I give you anything? You're building empathy, you're building compassion. But also what we're noticing here is that when people are turning red and they're consistently in the red, it's about pulling them aside and say, hey, you know what? Self-care is not working right now. I need to help you. Let me get you the professional support you need to make sure that you can move out of the red and back into green again. So this is a really simple, beautiful little tool that I really hope you're going to take back to your workplace again. It is not about fixing people. It is about listening and asking that one super powerful question. What do you need in this moment to succeed? You don't need to have the answers, but you do need to ask that question. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time, your energy, and your patience today. I wish you a wonderful rest of your conference. Thank you so much.